Hey, this is Brett Gursky. Welcome to another episode of On the List. This is episode number 67. It's June 2021. We are coming to you from the BLEAV podcast network. My guest today is a friend of mine who's also a very talented actress. We first got to know her on the hit TV series Greek. She then went on to star in movies like 22 Jump Street and on shows like The CARMICHAEL Show. Her latest series, Run the World, just premiered on Starz, and it's so critically acclaimed, it's got a score of 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Of course, I'm talking about Amber Stevens West.
Yay! Does it still have 100%? I haven't checked.
I double checked.
Stop it.
That's pretty good, right?
That's amazing.
Can't do better than that. Yeah, it's so good. I'm so happy for you. So we are on Zoom right now. So the video from this podcast will be available on YouTube and Instagram. So it's been a while since we've seen each other in person. I think the last time was at the Love Jack premiere at UTA, which was a few years back.
That's right. You were there. That's so. And I had just had my first daughter.
No, I don't know if you had her yet. This was like the screening at UTA before it came out.
She was like a week old.
No way, really? I
got her to that screening. Yeah, I remember.
Oh my gosh.
They also made it like a baby shower for me.
Oh, okay.
Like little screening and then people brought me books and we read, everyone signed them. It was so cute.
That must have been a different one. I think I saw a pre-screening because you didn't have a baby there. I would have remembered. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. This was like a friends and family cast screening that Shamir invited me to.
Was I there?
Yeah, you were definitely there. Your parents were there. Your sister was there.
Baby was there.
I don't know.
There, 100%.
Really?
Honestly, in the actual screening, she wasn't there. I brought her to the party, and then she was removed for a while. I left.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Because I was going to say I've never gotten to meet her. I only see her on.
Probably didn't because she was like.
Yeah, I only get to see her on Instagram.
Yes, so she's that was a long time ago though. That was already 2.5 years ago.
I know. We're going to talk about her in a second. Well, I wanted to say this first. So you are now officially, professionally known as Amber Stevens West. That's your married name. You're married to a fellow actor, Andrew West. People know him from The Walking Dead and Once Upon a Time. He initially had a recurring role on Greek with you, playing Fisher.
Wow.
Is that how you guys met?
Exactly how we met.
That worked out well.
It worked out great. I was not looking for a husband or anything. 22.
Right.
And the only thing that I remember saying to our showrunner at the time, our creator, was I had several love interests on the show before. And I was like, can you please just cast someone taller? That's like all I wanted. Cause I'm always like, I'm 5'9".
Yeah.
It's hard for me to, sometimes it's hard to get an actor who's a little taller than me.
Right.
So that was the only thing I said. I wasn't like looking for a boyfriend or anything. And then he came in and like the moment I met him in the table read, I was like, oh no. Wow. And I started Googling him and I was like, who is this guy? And I found his MySpace.
Wow. That's how long ago it was. The rest is history. Yeah. Now you're married with babies. But before we talk about him, I want to say when I met you, you were Amber Stevens because you come from a family of entertainers with the last name Stevens. Your dad, of course, is Shadow Stevens.
Yeah.
And what you may not know is I was a fan of your dad back when I was a little kid because I was obsessed with Hollywood Squares. So back in 1986, I'm going to show you something. I was in first grade and he started as first of all, he's one of the most famous radio DJs ever. He was on K-Rock in Los Angeles, but then he became the announcer on Hollywood Squares and they also made him the bottom center square. So this was a show I watched like every day after school religiously. And so in first grade, we did this thing where we kept these journals and the teacher would give us a prompt every day. So it would be like, this weekend I did this, or last night I did this. And the prompt on February 5th, 1987, let's look at it, was today is Thursday, February 5th, 1987. Someday I will be on Hollywood Squares. But then you had to draw a picture on the back. And I drew me on Hollywood Squares. It says Brett Gursky in the center square next to Shadow Stevens. 1987. Isn't that nuts?
That's the cutest thing I've ever seen.
So it was Betty White, Estelle Getty, Phyllis Diller, Kim Fields, and Mindy Cohn from Facts of Life, Stacey Q, Dr. Ruth, and then Brett Gursky and Shadow Stevens. I guess we were the only guys on the show that week. But
Gosh.
isn't that wild?
Where did you find that? Did you just keep that?
Yeah, I have all my journals. I still keep a journal to this day, but I started in first grade as like a class assignment. Isn't that nuts? So I remember doing a Hollywood Squares thing. So I found it for this this interview.
Where they wrote down in the first place.
Isn't that nuts? So it's so funny. So when I met Amber Stevens,
that's so cool.
Yeah. You got to tell him, you got to show him the video from this. I thought it was so wild. It's funny. And looking back, it's like you see how you don't really change, like who you are is who you are. Like it says in there, like one day I want to live in, and I wrote Hollywood, and on the back I drew like the Hollywood side.
Wow. No,
Wow.
we come out like the way that we're supposed to come out. We
Totally.
don't very much.
Exactly. And I was in Jersey, so for me it was far away, you know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
That is so crazy. That's
I know.
so
I was going to send you a picture of it, and then I was like, no, I'm going to surprise her with it live
glad you did. That was so cool.
on the podcast. Yeah, so funny. So I thought that was a fun fact. So you mentioned your baby. You have a daughter, Ava. She was born October 2018. Like I said, she's one of the cutest babies I've ever seen in my entire life.
I agree.
Extremely photogenic, like her parents. And congratulations are in order because you are pregnant with baby number 2.
Yeah, got number 2 coming. Oh gosh, in maybe like 5 or 6 weeks.
Oh, really? You're far along.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to get the person out.
Wow. Yeah. Was it easier the second time or harder the second time?
Oh, so much harder.
Really?
My first pregnancy was awesome. I was doing Happy Together, this multicam.
Yeah.
The whole time I was pregnant, we were hiding my belly. I had all this energy, and people would like bring me chairs, and I was like, I'm good. I felt totally normal, and it was a breeze. It was a great pregnancy. And this time around, it's like I literally was sleeping up until 5 minutes ago.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I have no energy. I'm so tired. I'm so big and uncomfortable, and I have to wear like a brace around me.
Wow, you can't even tell on here. You wouldn't even know.
If I'm seated, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I also have a 2-year-old. So my energy is like, has to all go towards her or napping.
Yeah.
I'm just anxious for that part to be done, because I also feel bad. Like I can't play with my kid.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. I know I want to jump with you, but I can't still.
Right. do you know yet? What'd you say?
She's patient with me though. My daughter, she understands, like, okay, mom's got a baby in there. I'll ask dad.
Yeah. Is she excited?
She's very excited. Yeah. She's excited to be a big sister. She talks about it every day.
Do you know if it's a boy or girl yet, or you're not saying?
I do know.
Oh, nice. You don't have to say.
Hi, everybody.
It's going to be a surprise. Awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. Sometimes I can't believe like we're old enough to be parents. Like, because we've known each other a long time. We've known each other, I think, at least since 2008. So,
I mean, maybe before that.
Yeah, because Greek was happening at the time. So before we get into Run the World, I'll give people a little backstory. We first met when you were on Greek, because you were on that show with a bunch of people I was friends with. I went to college with Paul James and Ainsley Bubico at Syracuse. Yeah. And then I also knew Tiffany DuPont through our friend Jim Saviano, and she was in a short film that I directed called Closing Time. So all these people that I knew ended up on a show together, and you guys were friends in real life and always going out and hanging out together. So I met Amber Stevens from their show, and, birthday parties, everything. And so I've known you at least since 2007, 2008. So yeah, we've grown up in LA over these last long time.
Doing Greek, it really was like our college years, for a few of you guys had actually finished school, but a lot of us were like still college age. You guys are just a couple of years older than us. And so we really like clung to each other and spent a lot of time together during those days, going out to, bars and parties and just hanging out and going to movies, whatever. We were a really close group of the cast and then extended friends. So
totally. I think that's why the show worked so well, because guys were friends in real life. So the chemistry was real.
Yeah, totally, totally.
I thought that made that great. And actually, in 2008, I was doing a Wednesday night party at Stone Rose at the Sofitel in LA, Randy Gerber's bar, remember? And you guys came to me and you were like, we want to do a premiere party for season 2. And it was August 2008. So we did this big Greek season 2 sophomore year premiere party. Whole cast was there. That's when I met everybody from the cast. There's so many pictures that I'm going to send you that I found from that night.
Send those, because I'm like, I don't even remember that night.
Yeah, it was fun. You'll remember it when you see the pictures.
Okay.
And then I remember meeting Andy for the first time. You brought him to Paul James' surprise birthday party, and he was your date.
Oh, was it at a restaurant?
Yeah, it was at a little restaurant called Shin. I don't even know if it's there anymore.
Yes. No, it's not there anymore.
No, but there's pictures from there too on Facebook. It's so funny. I looked back when I was doing my research for this. I was like tracing it back.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been I've known you a really long time.
Yeah, seriously. I got to see that romance blossom from the very beginning. And then in 2010, I got the chance to direct you and a bunch of our friends in a PSA for the Get Schooled Foundation. What was so awesome about that was that it was going to air during Barack Obama's town hall on MTV. So I was super excited about it. I recruited 12 of my actor friends to be in it, and I wanted them all to be on shows or in movies that took place in high school or college, because it was Get Schooled and it was all about staying in school. So you represented Greek. Paul James and Ainsley were in that too. And then I'll list off some other people who not only were in the PSA, but have been on this podcast: Michael B. Jordan, Kellen Lutz, Ben Savage, Max Adler, Jason Blair, Ryan Rotman, Juliana Guil. So finally, Amber Stevens West is on the list.
Yay! I gotta see that. Do you have a copy
of course. As you can tell, I keep everything.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I want to see that. I do remember that we were outside in someone's yard, right?
Lance Bass. It was Lance Bass.
That's right.
Yeah, he let us use his backyard in Toluca Lake. It was like really green and had this cool white fence. Yeah, it was awesome. But you guys were all so nice to come out and do that for me. It was a favor to be in this PSA, tell kids to stay in school. I was so proud of that. It's only a 30-second spot, but it's got 12 actors and a bunch of real people in it, and with kids, and it was awesome. I'll never forget. It's Barack Obama on MTV, and then it cuts to our PSA. It was very, very cool.
So awesome.
Yeah, so that's the backstory for people. So what have the last, now it's June 2021, what have the last 15 months been like for you? Because we've been in a pandemic. They just lifted the restrictions in New York and LA. Life is starting to sort of get back to normal. So tell me what your quarantine was like. You were in LA initially, right?
I was, yeah. Well, so the day that it was announced that we were in, it was considered a global pandemic, I was at Disneyland.
Wow.
With my family and one of my best friends and her family. And this trip had been planned for several weeks. It was really to celebrate her daughter's 3rd birthday. And we knew at the time that there was something going on, but we didn't, no one was wearing masks yet. We were like, maybe we don't shake hands. That's about as far as we had gotten. So we had brought a bunch of sanitizer with us to the park, and we were, just keeping all the kids' hands clean all day. And then around 5 p.m., I want to say, is when everyone's phones got the alert, it's considered a global pandemic.
Right.
And been canceled. The NFL's been canceled. We were it was weird. It was the entire park stopped in its tracks, and we all were like, should we be here right now? This is
right.
Weird. And then we didn't leave our house for months. So we really took it seriously, and we stayed home. But it kind of worked out great for my family. I mean, my daughter was so young. She was still napping twice a day. So it was we'd wake up in the morning, we'd make some fun breakfast, we'd take a nap, we just hang out. We had just finished remodeling, landscaping our yard. So it was the perfect time. We finally had grass outside. The weather was changing. She would take an afternoon nap, and Andy and I would have cocktail hour literally all day. We would have one drink, and we made our way through. I don't know if you know the bar Death & Co.
No.
And they have this incredible cocktail book, and it's just full of everything. So we just made our way through this book, making a new fun cocktail every day. We really stocked our bar with all this, the random ingredients that you don't normally have on hand. And we made the best of it. And it was kind of a good time. We did a lot of Zoom parties with our friends.
Yeah.
Like Zoom game nights and stuff. And then eventually we found out that Run the World was picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually moved to New York in September.
Wow.
And still, everything was still shut down, but we moved into a place in Williamsburg and, made our little quarantine there. And then we were there for 3 months and made our way back to LA, and now the world's opening back up.
Right. What a wild year. That'll always be probably you'll never forget it. Yeah. One of your wildest years ever. Speaking of Williamsburg, it looks like you're in New York right now, but you're actually back in LA.
No. So we've been doing a lot of press for Stars for Run the World, and they gave all of us actors these backdrops to use because we're doing all of our press from home still. Everything's on Zoom.
Yeah.
Kind of awesome because I'm in my guest room right now and like the bed's unmade and you can't even tell.
Totally. Yeah. It looks like you're in New York. I would have never known. So let's talk about Run the World because this is a big hit show. I have seen the first 5 episodes. That's what's out so far on Stars. There's going to be 8 total. They're going to run 1 episode every Sunday night from now until I think July 11th for the season finale. So explain the premise of the show. I was going to do it, but I'd rather have you do it.
Yeah. So Run the World focuses on the friendship and lives of 4 best girlfriends, Black girls living in Harlem. Thriving in Harlem, let's say that. So they are 3 of the 4 have been friends since they were children, and the 4th they met in college. So they've been friends for decades, essentially. And they're all very different from one another, but they're all very ambitious and funny and supportive and loving and smart and super well educated, and just living like a very enviable lifestyle, which is something that we don't get to see Black women doing very often.
Right.
And Harlem is also kind of like the 5th lead character in the show. It's really highlighted how special that place in the world is and how it's informing the way that they live their lives, as New Yorkers in their 30s. So it's a pretty special show, and it's also like really, it's a comedy for those that so we get compared to like Sex and the City,
totally.
that similar friendship vibe, but it focuses more on the friendship rather than like their dating lives,
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and there's dating life in there too, and relationships. There's a lot of that. What's cool about the show, it's like where Sex and the City explored Manhattan, Run the World explores Harlem in that same way. Like you said, like it's literally the 5th character. My brother-in-law is a chiropractor. He used to have an office in Harlem, so I've been there a lot.
Nice.
And you don't really see it on TV or in movies that much.
No, you don't. And a lot of people don't really know what that part of town is like. We're all really familiar with the Harlem Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there's the more like 80s version of Harlem where it was run down, but no one really knows like how the history and how it's maintained, like its beauty. And there's still like these 100-year-old brownstones, and the people that live there are very multicultural, and there's a huge like African community of people that live there. And just we highlight like the people that are in the parks, and then you can go and get like a drink from the guy out at the park, give you a cracker, which is like this alcohol beverage. It's very Harlem specific stuff that happens, and we try our best to highlight all of those moments.
Yeah, it looks like it's super trendy. The restaurants are cool. The clubs are cool. It looks like a lot of fun. Yeah. There's a lot of activity going on, which is great that you were able to show that. Even though you shot it during the pandemic, you were still able to recreate this busy Harlem lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we got really lucky. So the pandemic in some ways worked in our favor because the streets weren't so busy. And, things like the Peninsula Hotel completely had shut down for COVID, and we got to work there for an entire week, which would never happen in real life.
Right.
There's some positives to what we had to deal with.
Totally. Yes. New York City was like shut down like a movie set just for you guys.
Yeah, kind of.
That's so cool. Well, so the title Run the World, it reminds me of the Beyonce lyric. I'm sure that's where it came from. And it's female empowerment. And like you said, friendship. So you play Whitney. So how would you describe your character, Whitney?
So Whitney is a very type A personality. She's a person who wants to achieve all of her goals and has a checklist and loves to get everything right and never disappoint anybody. And so she's highly ambitious and focused and, on paper really has everything that anyone could ever want. She's got a long-term relationship with a great, successful man. She's got like the best of friends. She lives in this outstanding apartment overlooking Central Park. She's got a high-powered job as an investment banker. She literally has it all.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, when you meet her in the pilot, she's so unsure of her choices. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that because, like the saying goes, when you make plans, God laughs, or whatever.
Yeah.
So for like Ella that on the show, her character is a person who made all these plans and it blew up in her face and it didn't work out. My character made all these plans. They worked out perfectly and it's still not good enough,
Right.
And so really just struggling with like her where she is and the choices that she's made in life. And should she or should she not get married to this perfect man? Is she actually happy? And she's leaning on her friends to tell her what to do.
Yeah. It's kind of like that whole grass is always greener thing. Like when it comes easily to you, you almost are like, why this is happening too easily? I want the challenge,
No, absolutely. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. I mean, and I also like that it's a character who makes like such a poor choice. It's so easy to judge somebody like that. But when you get to know like the background and the story behind the person and why they make the choices they make, I think it gives us more compassion for each other and a little bit more, I don't know, we can just understand where people are coming from in their life. Like no one's perfect.
Right. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, when we meet Whitney in the pilot, it starts out with her, she's planning her wedding. You've got some great monologues about that. I like the part where, you're talking about how like restaurants just renamed fish to make it sound fancier, like Chilean sea bass and is really like tilapia. I was like, yeah, I've always known that, but I don't think I've heard that on a TV show before. But she's got, like you said, she's planning the wedding. We think it's going to be like, her season arc is just going to be planning a wedding. And then, she does do something, where she's sowing her wild oats, I guess we could say. Yeah. And so it kind of throws her life into a little bit of a tizzy, as they say.
Yes, it does.
But, we're rooting for her to still get married. It's interesting. It's like, we're not thinking like, okay, she did something, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I like about it is that you start to learn more about the decision that she's made and it doesn't make her like the villain.
Totally.
We all have made poor choices in our life and we have to suffer the consequences for sure. But she's trying to figure out, she's kind of punishing herself.
Right.
For the choice that she's made. And then also wanting forgiveness or wanting a girlfriend to tell her like that she shouldn't hate herself. And unsure if she needs to like have a talk with her fiance or not about moving forward. So I think it makes for an exciting season too.
Totally. I mean, I can't wait to see what happens next. But I like that the friends don't judge each other. There's no judgment.
No. And that's what's so nice to see is that a lot of shows with girlfriends, especially Black women, where they're kind of like pitted against each other or they want to like talk behind each other's backs or they're not actually fully supporting one another.
Right.
But that's not this show at all. And I can really relate to that. I don't have girlfriends in my life that do that. We're each other's champion. And if you make a bad choice in your life, I'm going to call you out and be like, girl, you should have done better. But like, I'm here to help you and let's figure out how we can like make your life better.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where these girlfriends are at with her. They're not there to like punish her or anything. She's punishing herself by, her experience. They're just there to help, be a shoulder.
Totally. Yeah. So let's talk about the creator of the show. The show is created by Lee Davenport. And I read something about Lee. Run the World was actually the first script she'd ever written. She was living in Harlem, working in media. She spent a decade revising the script. And she wrote it about like the 12 years that she was living in Harlem. And it wasn't until 2017 when she moved to LA to pursue writing full time that she was able to finally get it made. And then Stars finally obviously picked up the show. But like you said, she wanted it to depict a group of well-rounded, supportive friends because she felt like she didn't see that enough. And for her, it's a quote, love letter to Black women and a love letter to Harlem. And so Lee, who created it, she's also a co-executive producer with Yvette Lee Bowser, who's the showrunner. And people know her name because, you know, she created a very big hit 90s sitcom, Living Single. So as you can tell, I know a lot about my 80s and 90s multicam sitcoms. That's kind of my wheelhouse, I would say. So I know Living Single very well. Of course, it starred Kim Fields, who was in my Hollywood Squares drawing, actually.
Yeah.
Kim Fields, Queen Latifah, Kim Coles, and Erica Alexander. Erica Alexander now has a recurring role on Run the World.
Is one of the funniest people I've ever worked with.
Yeah, she's hilarious. I even remember back on Living Single, she was always like a standout. So that kind of like ties the two shows together. Something else about Yvette was she was a writer and producer on the Cosby Show spinoff, A Different World, which I grew up watching. So this show has, you know, very strong pedigree behind it. So tell me about when you got the script and you saw who was involved. Were you just like, oh my God, this is the show I've been waiting for?
Well, to be quite honest, so what happened first was I just got an email that was like, hey, this show's interested in you for Stars. And immediately when I see Stars, I go, oh, adult content.
Right.
This is going to be like my grown-up show because I'm so used to working in like network TV, which is, you know, just a different breed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, am I ready for this? Like, I don't know. I just came from doing a multicam that was like the most PG show ever. So I just read it, not really knowing which character they had in mind for me. But I immediately loved it. It just felt so grounded and real. And I could relate to all four of these characters. And I was like, I would play any of these people. I mean, I certainly related most to Whitney because they sent me 2 scripts and I got to see more of where Whitney is headed.
Mm.
And you know, I could see myself mostly in that role, but I, like you were saying, it's based on Lee's real life. So that was what I was most excited about, is that it just felt so real. And then I wasn't really, I looked up Yvette, and I'm not a person who knows all of everybody. I'm not at all. But I did know the show Dear White People, which is show running. And that show, although its satire was very smart and poignant and funny and clever. And I really appreciated what that show was doing. So I was impressed by that and what she was accomplishing with that show. And so I was just invited to go out to lunch with the 2 of them. So they took me out and I felt very important. This is in my career before, but they took me to the 4 Seasons in Beverly Hills and we met for lunch. But as soon as I sat down with them, I felt very at ease because I was in the presence of like 2 Black working mothers. And I was also just like a new mom. Lee had just had her daughter. She was rushing in because she had flown in because she lives in Oregon, actually. She flew in from Oregon and didn't have her breast pump and had to go to Target and go get her breast pump, and then was all hot. Like, I'm just trying to figure out this breastfeeding thing. And I was like, girl, I got you. I know exactly what this feels like. And like, we just had this camaraderie immediately that felt very familiar and comfortable. And so I was super candid with them. I was like, I love this show. I think it's great. I know you want to shoot it in Harlem, in New York. That's like a big deal for me to move my family across the country. So this better be super fun. I said, I'm only doing this if it's so much fun and we don't tolerate any bad attitudes and everyone's awesome. And they were like, well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
So it just felt like girlfriends from the beginning. And then to get to know them more and their history in the business and just how brilliant they are equally as writers and leaders in their specific fields that I just knew we were going to be in great hands. And I was right.
You were right. Absolutely. You got to go with your gut instinct on things like that. At that lunch, did they tell you they wanted you for Whitney, or did they ask you what role you responded to?
By the time it was lunch, I knew already that Whitney was the character that they had me in mind for.
Nice.
But no one else was cast yet. They were talking to Brescia Webb about Whitney. And they during that lunch were like, Brescia, right? What do you think of her? And I was like, yeah, I know Brescia, because Brescia and I go back like as far as you and I go back. Like I've known her since like 2007. But we never worked together. We just had a lot of friends in common. We'd seen each other at a million birthday parties. I adore her. She and I were both doing NBC sitcoms at the same time. So we would, promote things together. Like we were already cool. So I knew that if she was going to be a part of it, I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to do this show.
Yeah.
Her. And I was like, are you going to do this run the world thing? Because if you do it, I'll do it. And then through the casting process, we had to do chemistry reads, and that's how we got to find Corbin and then Andrea after that.
Yeah. So Brescia Webb plays Renee, Andrea Bordeaux plays Ella, and Corbin Reed plays Sandy. Those are the 4 female leads following in the footsteps of Living Single and Sex and the City. What's cool about Run the World is that within the world of the show, Sex and the City exists as like a pop culture reference, The characters know Sex and the City, it's like in that same world. And so they talk about like if they're guys, are they Mr. Big or not, it's very pop culture aware. And I kind of feel like you're the Carrie Bradshaw of the group. I think I would describe. Wow. Don't you think?
Really? I feel like Ella would be the Carrie Bradshaw.
I don't know. Ella feels like the Samantha, don't you think?
Oh, well, I mean, she's the one who's having the most intimacy.
Yes, right. She felt Samantha to me. Sandy was kind of Charlotte because she's hopeless romantic with, her.
Oh, interesting.
And I thought Renee was like Miranda, the divorced career woman. I don't know.
Oh, that's so interesting. That is like not at all what we've all thought.
Wow. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm right. I just was.
Well, that's what's so fun about this stuff. It's fun to pretend like, oh, for you. I mean, I've been doing that. Like people tell me when they watch our show, they're like, "Oh, I'm like a Whitney Sandy," or like I'm exactly like Renee, and I don't even understand where Whitney's coming from.
Wow, you know what? That's really cool. That's how you know your show has made it, when people call themselves a Whitney, like they call themselves the character.
Yeah. It's been really fun. It's been really fun.
That's exciting. And I like too that like the characters obviously grew up in the 90s like we did, and everything is like those pop culture references. Like your character quotes Clueless, says like way harsh Ty, and it's just like part of her vocabulary.
Yes. No, it's very like grounded in reality. I've never related to something so much.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah, it's like a role you were born to play, it feels like. And they talk about Janet Jackson videos from the 90s, all that stuff. So the cast was announced in October 2019, pre-pandemic, all of that. But because the pandemic hit, the show didn't actually film until October 2020. Like you said, you moved to New York in September. How many months were you in New York? How long did it take to shoot 8 episodes in a pandemic?
So we actually shot the pilot in December of 2019. So we did,
good.
And then found out the pilot was picked up in January. So they picked it up really quickly, which was very exciting.
Yes.
So we thought we would be filming. So we were picked up, in January of 2020, and thought we would be shooting by June. They were like, oh, we'll have some time and we'll write the show. And then it was like, just kidding, pandemic. So we didn't get started until, like you said, October, but we had to move ahead of time because everyone had to quarantine. We had the production stuff, all the fittings with, and all the table reads and all of the things came before that. So we didn't finally start until mid-October, and then finished like a couple days before Christmas.
Wow. Wow. How did you like living in New York?
It's okay.
Well, I guess it wasn't the real New York because it was pandemic.
New York, I'm an LA girl. I just, it's just such a different energy for me. I've spent a lot of time in New York. This was certainly the lengthiest amount of time I've spent there. But it's just like, it's just a vibe that like, I can only hang for like 4 days.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go home. I have a lot of fun, when I think I just need more friends there. I think that would really make a big difference. It's also hard with a kid.
Mm-hmm.
City. I don't know how people do it. I'm still just on my car, and to like public transit with a child is very different. Changes and stuff. I mean, I literally got, what's the thing called that happens in New York? They had a alert on my phone for like some crazy snowstorm that came, like a flurry, what the heck is the word?
Like a Doppler radar? I don't know. What is that?
A word for what it was. And it was like a 5 to 10 minute crazy snowstorm that just like came out of nowhere.
Like hail?
No, but it was snow. It had a like a flurry. But it was literally, there was like an alert on my cell phone that it was coming. And like 2 minutes later, I couldn't see in front of me. And I had my daughter in a stroller. And I was trying to get back to our hotel. I was like, New York's crazy. What's happening?
Right.
It was completely white. You couldn't see 2 feet in front of you. And then it was over.
Wow.
What was it called?
A blizzard?
No, it wasn't a blizzard. I've heard of a blizzard. It had like a fun name because it was such a specific, like it's a very short amount of time that this happens, but it's like crazy and out of nowhere.
We need to figure that out.
I have to look it up later.
Totally.
No, New York's just got some crazy stuff like that. I guess it's exciting. So I'm excited. If we get to go back for a season 2, I'm going to have a great time. I'm not going to live in Brooklyn. I'm going to go live in Manhattan. I know that that's going to be better for me. And we're going to make the best of it.
Right. Yeah. People always make it look so effortless, like pushing their kid in a stroller in the city.
They really do. And I don't understand. I mean, maybe they have like secret tips.
Maybe.
You have to ask for so much help. Yeah. You take the subway, you got a stroller, you got to be like, stranger, can you help me with my stroller?
Yeah.
Elevators, and it's a thing. And also with COVID, it was, it wasn't really giving me all of its best attributes.
Totally. Well, I'm glad you got to do the pilot, at least in the real old world.
Yeah. That was fun. And when we did that, we were staying in, all in a hotel together at the, on the Upper West Side. And it was very charming. That was a nice experience.
Yeah. Well, what I like is that it's a feel-good show. It's like a New York City story where the pandemic no longer exists. I wasn't sure if they were going to mention it at all, but then there's a scene between Whitney and her mom where she says that, your dad and I have been home alone together for months.
Yep. And reference you're ever going to get.
That's the only reference, but at least it let me know we're in a post-pandemic New York. And it's a feel-good show. It's fun. Do you have a favorite episode of the 8 episodes, or a favorite scene, or a favorite moment?
Oh gosh. There's so many fun moments. I mean, there's a difference. I love watching, like the scene between, like you just mentioned, between my mother and I at the dinner table. When I read that in the script, I cried, and I was like, I just feel so bad for the way that daughters treat their mothers. Mm-hmm. And I have a great relationship with my mom. We're like best friends, but I'm sure I put her through the ringer and rolled my eyes at her and told her to, shut her mouth and shut her down all the time. And I got sad. I was like, my daughter's going to do that to me one day, no matter how kind I am to her and supportive of her ambitions, she's still going to resent me.
Right.
So little moments like that. Like I love that scene so much, but then there's a difference between like what I love watching on screen and like what I had enjoyed filming. Because when we were filming the scenes, when we were at Yatanga, and then we go over to Shrine and go dancing, I think it's up in Isle of Harlem. That was so fun. And it felt like we were out partying late because we were working late. We had music blasting. We were dancing our asses off in this club. We were sweating, smoking fake cigarettes and drinking fake drinks. Like filming that night was just a blast. So, that's the difference, is that one is more fun to shoot. I guess it was really fun to watch also, and it was also, just the emotional, like groundedness of the scene with my mother and I really love.
Yeah.
There's more stuff coming though. I think episode 6 that's coming up next for us is all of us see the same therapist, and it's played by Rosie O'Donnell.
Wow.
This is based in true events. Lee and all of her girlfriends were all seeing the same therapist without anything.
No.
For like many months before they realized they all saw the same woman. So that this one woman knows like everybody's drama from everybody's perspective. So she put it in the show. So we all see the same therapist. And that's essentially what the whole episode focuses on, our different therapy sessions.
Oh, that's going to be cool.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. It's such a well designed episode too. Just see where all of our heads are at and how smart the therapist is and how she works her advice in. And then there's a lot of flashback stuff you'll see and learn about our relationships.
So the therapist knows that she sees all of them?
Yes, she knows.
Like she knows the names and that's who they're referring to, but she obviously can't tell them that she sees.
She does. We, at this point in our show, we all know that we all see her.
Okay.
But it was inspired by, in real life, her and her girlfriends all saw the same therapist, but they didn't realize it for a long time. But
wow. How was working with Rosie O'Donnell?
Oh my God, she's amazing. She's exactly who you want her to be. She's just like so grounded in reality, just like a real person who's very kind and easy to talk to. And, talented, of course, and complimentary of everybody and what they're doing and gracious.
Yeah.
I love her. And I hope that we get to work with her again.
Yeah. You got to bring back the therapist. If you guys keep having problems, you'll need the therapist. But Rosie O'Donnell, that was another show I grew up loving. Her talk show. I was a pop culture obsessed kid and she was pop culture obsessed.
Yeah. And she kind of introduced a lot of America to Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Which I so appreciated because I wasn't a kid who was really exposed to seeing a lot of musical theater, but I would watch her show and she would always have like the latest cast of whoever on, and so energetic and fun. It's such a happy show.
Totally. Yeah. It was fun. And I grew up in Jersey, so right outside New York City. So I was going to Broadway shows my whole life. And that was Rosie O'Donnell shows, one of those few shows I could actually go be in the audience because she would have kids.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I went a bunch of times. Like I would tell my parents I'd call up to get tickets and crazy. Yeah, I remember actually there was like a fire at her set or something. So she used Letterman's studio for a week or two. And so then they announced like the Letterman studio has much more seating. So we suddenly have tickets available. So I called up, got tickets, and got two of my friends and we skipped school and took the bus into New York City to go see the Rosie O'Donnell show.
So cute.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, that's cool that you did the show with her. You guys have a great core cast and great guest stars, really, really strong. I was going to mention a favorite moment of mine, episode 3, you got to do some karaoke. And you can sing. Yeah.
I actually thought that I would pursue singing before acting ever became a thing for me.
You were really good.
Thank you.
We finally got to see it. You did the song Dilemma. You did a great Kelly Rowland.
Thank you. No, that was a really fun couple days. They built that karaoke bar on a stage, and it took us, I want to say 2.5 days to shoot all of those scenes. And it was really fun because we really were just singing on set all day.
Yeah, that's fun. That's awesome. Do you get to pick the songs or they picked it for you?
No, of course, all that has to be approved by network and budgets and stuff. It was all
licensed.
Very pre-planned.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But that's still fun. It's funny. Kelly Rowland was my next door neighbor for years. And so my dog Buddy and her son Titan would hang out outside. I'd go for walks and he'd hang out with the little kid in the neighborhood, and it turned out to be her son.
Cool.
Small world. And so you know what else I like about Run the World? Every episode starts where you don't know where the title of the show is going to end up. So it ends up, it's really cool. And so it ends up as, the logo's on a poster, or it's on a taxi cab, or it's on the backboard of a basketball hoop. I think that's a really cool device.
Yeah, they're very clever. I don't know who came up with that idea, but I do think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's just a cool way to incorporate it into that New York City lifestyle. And then the other thing I was going to ask is, besides the therapist, is there anything else you can tease about the rest of season 1, what people can look forward to?
Oh,
without giving anything away?
well, Whitney's journey will have some more clarity of where she's headed.
Okay.
Vision is in order to move forward. I can tease that. I don't want to tell what it is, but she certainly is going to make a choice and we'll see what the consequences are of that.
Okay.
So that's some good stuff. There's more like romance coming. There's a lot more like the therapist thing is really I'm excited for people to see that because of the format. The way it was written is so good too. The back and forth between who's talking about who and the advice that's given and how it's applied. And it's just it's brilliant writing.
I love that. Awesome. And so when do you think you'll find out about season 2? Has there been any talk?
I mean, there's buzz about it, but nothing's official yet. So I'm hopeful that we'll get some sort of news in the next couple of weeks because I know that if they want to go back, they would like to not work up until Christmas again because everyone is in Los Angeles. Like all the writer's room, actors, everyone's here. So I think they want to be home for the holidays. So hopefully we'll find out soon so that we can start filming sooner and be done sooner.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would think 100% on Rotten Tomatoes signals a good sign, right?
I would sure hope so. Come on.
What else do you want from us? Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer. And it seems like if it does get picked up, it's the kind of show that will be on for years like Sex and the City was,
Well, your mouth to God's ears. I'm
Fingers crossed. Many more years of Whitney. Like I said, it seems like your whole career has kind of led up to this moment, and this was like a role you were really born to play. It's really a perfect, meeting of actor and role, I feel like.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And it's
like the right time for this show, too. Yeah,
perfect timing. Yeah, and it's really fun. And I think guys will like it, too. Like the guys sit around and talk. Like I like it as much as probably, you're enjoying it because like there's scenes where the guys are sitting and talking and they're like, hey, we have great jobs, we have no kids, like we're catches.
Yeah, no, I think that's great too. I'm glad you brought that up because it's not just a show for women. The guys are cool aspirational dudes too. They're not like just treated as accessories to the storyline of the women. They also are grounded, vulnerable, well-rounded characters themselves.
Yeah. Men have feelings too.
Exactly.
And they also have really good jobs. Like they're professionals, they're cool, they're trying to figure out their, place in the world too. So like I said, Run the World on Stars every Sunday night between now and July 11th. Binge the first 5. It's a very fun watch. Okay, so here is where it becomes Inside the Actors Studio, Amber Stevens West edition.
Okay.
Are you ready? I'm picking up where James Lipton left off. So you were born and raised in Los Angeles, yes. Correct? You went to Beverly Hills High School. So what is your earliest memory of wanting to be an actress when you grew up?
Oh, kind of a tricky question. I was very encouraged by my parents from an early age to perform because I have that gene where I just like want to see a show and I would just like do something, I would do gymnastic shows and I would like build something out of toilet paper rolls and be like, it's a show. And I would, create programs for my parents to come and watch the show. And if all the kids came over for 4th of July, I would produce a big show for all the kids to be in, and there would be a dance number, and there would be, if you didn't want to be in the show, you could be in lighting. And so I would give kids flashlights and they could do lights from the sides. Like, so I've just always been encouraged by my parents because I was doing it anyway.
I get it. Yeah.
I became old enough to like really start considering what am I going to do with my life? I was one of those like just like dumb kids who was like, well, I'm not going to do what you tell me to do. You don't know me. So stupid. And so I was like, I'm going to go into event coordinating or production or something. And then that kind of turned into like, well, actually I play piano and I love singing. So like, I'm going to go that direction in life. But really, I think all along my parents were like, why aren't you acting? So yeah. We kind of like I had to find it myself. And so I was actually doing modeling as a young teenager, just like Macy's catalogs and Target ads and stuff like that. And that turned into me doing some commercial work. And then through commercial work, they started saying like, oh, come into this commercial audition, you have to actually say something. So it turned into kind of like acting. And then I found, oh, I can actually do that. I'm better at it than I thought. But, I never did theater in high school or anything because I was intimidated by it. It wasn't my world. Like the kids who did theater were like very into theater. And I was in student council, like that was more my thing. And so through my commercial acting, my agent at that time introduced me to who is still my manager today. And he just was looking for new young talent. She was like, hey, you should go meet this guy. I was like 16 or 17. I went with my mom and my sister. It was very like casual, like, hi, nice to meet you. I guess this is something I can do. I don't know. And he had me do a cold read for him in the office he just gave me some scene. I don't even remember what it was to read with some other dude who was there. And he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself and was like, I think you could be an actress. Do you want me to send you on auditions? And I manage you. And I just recommend maybe you take an acting class so that you understand like what to do. It was an on-camera acting class. So I would learn how to, stand in front of a camera and not look at the lens or whatever. And how to hit your mark. And I was like, okay. So it was all very kind of like a slow, organic thing. There was no moment. But when my dad was an actor, he was on a multicam CBS show called Dave's World.
Right.
So I was very familiar with the world. I would go, almost every Friday and go and watch his live tapings. I knew what the world entailed. I had been on like a couple auditions as a kid. Like I auditioned for All That as a kid. And I auditioned like for my dad's show to play Meshach Taylor's daughter. Like casual. I never took it seriously. So yeah, I don't really have like one of those big moments. It just organically happened through time. And I would get a line here and there as a co-star or whatever. And I was like, this is fun. And then they gave me a check and I was like, oh, I can pay for my car, and
right.
It kind of turned into something. So I was very naive, like when I even got Greek, because I didn't understand the gravity of getting a pilot for a TV show as like a lead character. I just thought kind of it was like another co-star thing. Like I go and say some lines one day and we'll see what happens next.
Right. Wow. It's almost like because you didn't have put the pressure on yourself, it almost happened more effortlessly, In
some ways it does feel that way. It does feel like I'm just riding this wave that I just caught somehow. And it's just kept me afloat for all these years.
Yeah, you've always worked steadily. Yeah, you're always working. That's cool, though. Yeah, you mentioned your dad was on Dave's World, which was like this hit CBS sitcom. So you grew up on that set. That was my dream as a kid. I'm in Jersey, so far from LA. I was like, I just want to be on a sitcom set. Like, it just seemed like the life. We would go on vacation. We'd go to like Hawaii, but I'd ask my parents if we could stop in LA and go to like sitcom tapings for a week.
You're so cute. I love it.
But it's just like that's the trajectory, you know what you love. But yeah, we were going to I remember summer 91, we went to Golden Girls, Blossom, and Family Matters. Yeah.
That's 1 week.
Right? I know. And this was like the height of like Steve Urkel's fame. And it was the episode where Steve Urkel and Laura are doing Romeo and Juliet at school. And I just remember my mom, dad, and sister sat in the back of the audience, and I sat next to the warm-up guy in the front row. And just watched everything. And I was like, I remember vividly, like they kept bringing the mom on the show another glass between takes because she was pouring orange juice and there couldn't be anything in the glass already. So they'd have to keep starting over. And I was just remember being fascinated. Like, this is the coolest thing.
Magic.
Yeah, it was magic. Yeah, it was really cool. But yeah, so for you to be exposed to that, you didn't even realize how much you were probably learning.
No, I had no idea. And I had been to other sets too. Like I went to the Home Improvement set and like Sister.
Yeah.
Because it was like cool. But I don't think I realized like the impact it had on me until later. And then I started working in multicam, most with Carmichael's show.
Oh yeah.
And I realized like that I really did want that all along.
It's amazing.
It was that live audience feel, like just the performing in front of people live every week was, it was like what I was doing as a kid. I was putting on these shows for my parents' friends.
Totally.
Got to, do that there. And I was doing, it was just, I didn't realize how impactful it was.
I think that's really cool because usually you hear people were asking their parents to put them in it. And here you had a manager telling you should do it and parents telling you should do it. Like other people kind of saw it in you before you saw it in yourself. What was the first like real paying acting job that you booked?
I did a bunch of commercials, and I remember one of the bigger commercials for me was an Old Navy commercial.
Okay.
Those Old Navy commercials were everything, like Performance Fleece and
yes,
all of that. And Fran Drescher was in it.
Nice.
I remember that being like a big moment because it aired during Friends. And I was a huge Friends fan.
Me too.
Speaking of, I went to the series finale taping of Friends. Just saying. One brag that I have.
By the way, I was living in LA at that point, trying to figure out how to get to that.
I don't know how I got it. My dad surprised my little sister and I and got us to
Shadow Stevens, man.
Of Friends.
He's got the hookup.
It aired during that, and I just felt like, oh wow, I am famous.
You made it.
Like I'm in it for that long. You just like see me like wearing a jean skirt or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was like my first kind of like moment on television that felt like something. And then I had one line in a multicam when I was like 18 or whatever. It was a TV show called Complete Savages. And I think it lasted one season. And I want to say it was like a TGIF show.
Yeah.
It was like a teen show.
They had a bunch of kids.
Yeah. It was like a family of like 5 boys or something being raised by their dad.
Yeah.
One line, but it was like the most fun week ever because everyone was like young and my age. We were shooting at Universal Studios on the lot and we snuck into the theme park.
Nice.
Felt so like cool.
Totally. Yeah, that's cool. And then you were on your way from there. And then, so that was 2005. In 2006, you booked a movie, Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift. And that was the 3rd movie in the Fast and Furious movie. The franchise is still going. Number 9 is coming out this month. What was that like? Because the first 2 were big hits. So you're like, I'm going to be in a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah, it was exciting. It wasn't a very big part. It was a very small moment, but I still did get to work for like a week. And I was put up in a hotel, I think, for the first time by a production. And that felt really big. And I made close friends with the people in the scene, like very quickly, like that camp energy.
Yes.
Camp, and you're like, we're best friends for this whole week.
Yeah.
Energy with like all the actors. So we all just clung to each other because we were all like 19 or something.
Right.
And so that felt cool. And then I got to go to the premiere when that came out, and that felt cool, I guess. Yeah. My part was like, it's not significant.
But the big deal with that movie was like that Vin Diesel was back, and that kind of kept it going.
Yeah. Was he in that one?
Remember he surprises everyone at the end.
Oh, at the end. Yeah.
And then like, oh wow, this franchise is going to continue.
That's right.
It was cool. Yeah. But then 2007, you booked the role that would change your life as a regular on the hit ABC Family series Greek. It ran for 4 seasons from 2007 to 2011, which is perfect for a college show because it took us through it from freshman to senior year. It was like the perfect little, tied up in a bow. So you played Ashley Howard, and that's where you met Andy West playing Fisher. So let's talk about the rest of that cast. Jacob Zakar played Rusty or Spitter. Spencer Grammer played Casey. Scott Michael Foster played Cappy. Jake McDormand played Evan. Clark Duke played Dale. And Paul James, who we talked about, played Calvin. And like Complete Savages, you were on a set where everyone was your age. So that must have just been, again, the camp vibe, right?
Oh, immediately. All of us just clung to each other so quick. I mean, for most of us, it was like our first series regular job.
Absolutely.
It was a big moment for all of us to be cast in this show. All being really young. Not everyone was, everyone was kind of like newer to LA, except for me. But it was all just like everything happened at once. It was very exciting. And yeah, a lot of us are like still keep in touch.
Yeah. I feel like that was like the first hit show for ABC Family. Didn't it kind of put it on the map, or it was like, it was one of them.
The other show at that time, I want to say, was Kyle XY.
Okay. But that was different. That wasn't like a teen, like that was more like a sci-fi, right?
That was like a sci-fi show. Like the ABC Family was pretty new because it used to be Fox.
Yeah. Fox Family. Yeah.
ABC Family was like kind of figuring out what it was going to be. It had Wildfire, I want to say, was another show that was on there. It was like a horse show.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Kyle XY, and then ours was like the comedy breakout,
Totally.
And yeah, it kind of, helped identify what ABC Family was going to be for its future. Absolutely.
You guys put a whole network on the map.
We sure did. But we sure did.
Right. Now it's freeform. Yeah. But it's funny because I got to watch Paul James playing, a college student after having really gone to college with him in real life. Yeah. I'll tell you a quick Paul James story, but I really have to have him on the podcast too to talk about his whole career. But very quickly, so he was a year younger than me at Syracuse, and I was a film major. He was an acting major, and he was in the acting school with my friend Eric Charleston, and Eric would invite me to their plays. And I remember going to see the play, and the leads were Eric Charleston and Paul James. And I just remember sitting there. It was the first time I met him or saw him, and just thinking like, this guy, Paul James, is so good. This is like a college production of a play. And then I graduate in 2002. I moved to LA. That next summer, 2003, I interned on my friend Jeff Wadlow's movie Cry Wolf. And they were doing the auditions on the Universal lot. And I'm sitting in the audition room and I'm reading opposite actors and I'm working the video camera back when they filmed on like a big camcorder on a tripod. And Paul James walks in, and he was living in New York. So I was like, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm interning on this movie. And he was like, I'm auditioning for this movie. And it was his first audition in LA. I guess he had just moved there. He was sent out on it, and he auditions and he crushes it. And they keep asking like, who's the best for that role? And I kept saying Paul James. I'm like, are you saying it because you're friends with him? Or are you saying it because he's the best? I'm like, he's the best. And they're like, actually, we agree. He is the best. He ended up booking it. He booked it, and he was in Cry Wolf. It was his first big thing. So he always gives me credit, even though he earned it. But I was in the room for his audition for Cry Wolf.
First audition in LA.
Yeah. He literally was like off the plane and was like, hey. And I was like, what are you doing? I'll never forget that moment. It was I remember standing there at a tripod with a camcorder, and in walks Paul James, and we both looked at each other like, because we were in upstate New York at college, and now we're on the Universal lot.
Weird moment. That's amazing.
Yeah, serendipity. Yeah, and a
lot of those in your life.
A lot of those. That's why I like to do the podcast, because you can kind of connect all the dots.
Yeah,
it's fun. He's such a talented actor. I know he does such great work. He still needs his own show. Like that's what he needs now.
Well, he had Soundtrack last year.
Soundtrack on Netflix.
I really thought it deserved, but boy, he's incredible in that show.
I thought so too.
So good.
Yeah, Soundtrack. He's so good.
On my couch watching him, texting him like, Paul, I'm dying. The show's so good.
I know. I wanted it to get a second season.
Great. So if people haven't seen it, they really should check it out. I'm sure.
Yeah. That's on Netflix. Yeah. So tell me quickly your experience on Greek. Was it just a dream come true? Was it so much fun?
It was, but again, it was very I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I'm just like a person I'm a very present person. I don't know if you can tell that. I don't harbor on what the future is going to hold. And I certainly forget about the past a lot. So it's nice to recap these things because I forget. But
yeah,
I was just very present in the moment. I was having so much fun, and I remember shooting, I want to say it was like episode 2 or 3 of Greek. And I was doing a scene where I had to tell off Evan, Jake McDormand's character, and tell him like what he needed to do in order to win back Casey or something like that. And after we finished filming the first take, I ran over to the producers and I was like, that's the most I've ever talked on TV. I just was like, that's cool. I've never acted so much.
Wow.
All these little moments. And I, by this, I want to say it was the series towards the end of the series where my character then becomes, trying to find what she's going to do after she graduates. And I had this super long monologue where I had to give like speak really fast to this woman about how I wanted to be a trend forecaster and I wanted to work for her and how passionate I was and excited about it.
Yeah.
I had never been able to do anything like that on TV before. And, you know, I remember people being nervous and being like, you have to speak so much in that scene. Do you want us to have a teleprompter for you? And I was like, hell no, I'm an actor. I could do it.
Yeah.
That thing. And I just, you know, so I had all these like little moments where I grew as an actress and became more confident in what I was doing, that prepared me for all the other things in the future. Because I wasn't like trained as an actor. I like learned so much on that job. I learned how to hit your mark, how to find your light, how to, you know, where you wear mic packs, like all little things. Like I didn't know anything. I just walked into that show and somehow they gave me the job.
I love it. I love that you're a natural. That's so cool.
I learned on the job.
That's cool. That's what it's for. Yeah. And so you guys did 74 episodes of Greek. That's a nice.
Oh my God.
It's a nice run. Yeah. And so how did it feel when it ended? Because obviously it was a natural ending for the characters because they were graduating from college. So were you guys ready to move on to other things, or were you like upset about it?
I think most of us were. You know, I was so enjoying myself doing that show that I was one of the few who was like, I could do this forever. Let's keep going.
Right.
But, you know, they knew it was time. The stories were told. You know, we had wrapped up the storyline so beautifully, and everyone was excited to like try out other things. So it worked out, I think, at the perfect time.
Yeah. And while you were on Greek, you also were still doing movies. You were in a movie called Fired Up, directed by Will Gluck. I love that movie.
My life.
What?
You're really reminding me of all the stuff I've done.
Yeah. There used to be a show called This Is Your Life. That's what you're on right now.
That's how it feels.
But I love that movie. I was at that premiere and Juliana Guil was in that as well. It's about two guys who infiltrate a cheerleading camp. It's like Wedding Crashers at a cheerleading camp. And it's Nicholas D'Augusto and Eric Christian Olsen. David Walton is also so good in that movie as Dr. Rick.
Funny. I love that guy.
That movie was where I always refer to him. I'm like, David Walton's hilarious. Have you seen Fired Up, Dr. Rick?
No.
But that looked like so much fun. Again, literally a camp vibe because it's about a camp. Did you have a blast on Fired Up?
I was only really in the beginning of that movie too, so I didn't get to do too much. It was really more to establish the two boys' characters about how they were kind of like, you know, messing around with girls and not serious and just like stuff. So it wasn't a big like a long-term job or anything, but I do remember enjoying myself and everyone being like really cool and young and excited to be there.
Yeah. It looked like fun. And then another movie you did, 2012, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh my God. So let me say something.
Okay.
I did have lines in that movie and I worked for a whole week on that movie. And I came home early from a vacation in Italy to do that movie. I spent $2,000 to change my ticket during the holidays to come home early from Rome to go work on Spider-Man because I found out while I was out of town.
Right.
Cost me money to be in this movie. I was like, I will be in Spider-Man. And
Right.
in Rome, and he was by himself in Rome, and I came back and I worked on it for about a week or something. And they cut all my stuff out of the movie. So if you really watch the movie, you see me for about that long.
Okay. I remember that you were in it, but I guess they cut your lines.
Yeah. So I had scenes. I don't even really remember what they were, but it was something I talked I don't know. And like Emma Stone was there and
Yeah.
with her and Andrew Garfield and something happened. I don't even remember the scene, but I know that I didn't fly all the way from Rome to pop some bubble gum on screen.
Right.
But yeah, they ended up cutting stuff. Oh yeah, there was other scenes where we were in the classroom. I mean, it's all coming back to me now. We were in a classroom because it was a high school movie.
Yeah.
The villain monster, whatever it was in that movie.
Yeah.
The classroom, and we had to react to that. So there was like some action stuff we had to do, like green screen things. It's all coming back to me. Yeah, that was cut. Or I was cut out of the scene. I don't remember.
Well, I guess it's a learning experience. You learned about green screen.
You know what? I have no regrets. Obviously, it was a cool experience to get to say that. But what makes me giggle is when people are like, "I love your work in Spider-Man."
Right.
Just IMDb me. You guys,
Right.
I'm not in that movie.
You're seen, but maybe not heard. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so I literally pop a bubble gum real fast into like a close-up shot.
that's so funny. That's your superhero moment. Another movie you did in 2012 that we've talked about on this podcast is called The Kitchen, and we talked about it because Brian Greenberg was a guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
And what's cool about that movie, it's like an indie small movie, and it all takes place in like real time during a party. And it's all kind of about how, like, when you go to a party, people congregate in the kitchen. So all the action and dialogue takes place of people coming in and out of the kitchen in the real time of the party. I just think it's a cool movie people should see. It's Brian Greenberg, Laura Prepon, you play Amanda. But yeah, we talked about it with Brian, and you were in it too. So do you like doing those small, like, dialogue-driven indies?
Yeah, that was a fun one because I knew it was all going to be, I like the premise of like a party and what happens and goes down in the span of just a couple hours.
Yeah.
So that was a fun one to shoot. Poor Brian Greenberg, I put him in such an uncomfortable position by accident. We were filming that in a real house, not too far from where I live. So like in Glendale or something. And I told Andy, this was many years ago, so I don't think we weren't married or anything yet. I was like, do you want to come to set one day and just like hang out? He was like, sure, I'll just come and, say hi one of the days. And so he was like, okay, I'll come today. As soon as he shows up is my scene where I start hooking up with Brian's character. So he's literally like sitting behind the monitors watching as I'm like making out, and Brian's putting his hand up my skirt, and it's like all nasty. And Brian was so uncomfortable because Andy is, for people that don't know, he's like the least jealous, just super chill guy you'll ever meet.
Really nice guy. Really
just like nice and understands that like what goes into acting. He doesn't care. He also knows Brian. So he was like, yeah, good to see you, man. Hey, all right, good. Have a good scene. And after every take, Brian just kept going up to Andy and was like, man, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm like with Amber and like this is going on. Like he was clearly way more uncomfortable than Andy was. That Andy was like, I'm gonna go. I'm making this awful for Brian.
It's just so funny. Of all the days, that's the day, and it's like the universe.
Invite me today, and I was like, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it. I just thought, whatever, come.
The universe works in mysterious ways. Of all the days,
I'm gonna go home. Yeah, you should.
That's so funny. That was a story Brian did not tell when he was on the podcast.
He might have blocked it out because I just made him so uncomfortable.
That's so funny. Yeah, he was a great guest on here. He's got a great story too. Everyone's got like a great story of like how they made it, and he's got a great one too. So also in 2012, you did a few episodes of 90210. They rebooted Beverly Hills 90210. You played a character named Bryce. You grew up in real life in Beverly Hills 90210, right?
Sure did, and I got time. Is it like the show?
And then you got to be on the reboot. What was that like? It's like a rite of passage. I feel like almost everyone who's been on the podcast has their 90210 story.
It was one of those shows that like had every young person in town as a guest at some point. It was cool. It was like you said, a rite of passage. It was fun to get the call. Hey, you want to do this couple episodes or whatever it was. And I remember one thing that was cool is that we were filming one day at the Hollywood Bowl. That was fun because it was completely shut down. And so I had the opportunity to stand on the stage and see what it's like from that perspective.
That's awesome.
That was just like a cool thing.
Yeah. Not a lot of people can say that unless they perform it.
Yeah.
That's cool. You should have sang a song. Now we know you could sing.
Yeah, I really should have.
What's cool is David Rappaport cast that show. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah,
and
it's been so long.
He has employed all of my friends at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's everyone. If you're like under 40, David's giving you a job in this town.
Yeah, but even if you're over 40, he makes you the parent on the show. He brings you back. But he did Gossip Girl. He did, the new 90210. Now he does all the Greg Berlanti DC Universe shows on the CW. Yeah. He's crushing it. The way I met him was a mutual friend asked if I would like throw his like 1 year or 2 year anniversary party of starting his casting company at Stone Rose when I was doing that Wednesday night.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I remember we put up Gossip Girl posters. That was like his big thing at the time. And he just blew up after that. I meet everyone right before they blow up. It's pretty cool. So yeah, that was cool. Did you watch the original 90210 or were you too young?
No, I was too young. I have a younger sister, so I geared towards like I stayed young as opposed to like watching the older kid shows. Like I was watching Senior way too long.
That's funny. Yeah, but you got to live Beverly Hills 90210 in real life instead.
Yeah.
So then in 2014, you did a big hit comedy movie directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, 22 Jump Street, starring Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, sequel to a big movie. Such a great cast. You're in it with Wyatt Russell, Jillian Bell, Ice Cube. You play Maya. Come on, what was that like? That had to be so much fun.
Getting that job was really exciting. Kind of a fun story. So I auditioned for it, just like a regular audition with casting. And then I got like a week later or so, I don't know what the time was, got a call back. And it just so happened that I checked my phone right before I walked into a yoga class. And it was my agent. And I answered real quick and I was like, hey, I'm walking in this class. And he was like, actually, you got a call back for 22 Jump Street. I'm sending you all the sides right now. They need you there in like an hour or something. It was like, and it was across town. I was taking a yoga class in Sherman Oaks in the Valley in Los Angeles, and I needed to go all the way down to the beach.
Oh no.
In Santa Monica. So I didn't take the class. Obviously, I was like, okay, I got to go home and like put some clothes on. I put on the same outfit that I had on for the first audition. I'm printing out the sides, and then I have to get in my car and do, the 45-minute drive across town. So I was on the freeway reading the script. They, of course, sent 17 pages of sides with me. It was something so insane that you could like never learn it that fast. So it kind of took the pressure off because it was like, hey, be here now and also know all this stuff. And it's like, no one can do that. So just get what you're going to get. So I got there, and then I was sitting in the waiting room with the other actresses that they had called back for various roles. And I could hear in the room, Jonah Hill is in the room. I was like, well, no one told me Jonah's here. So like, I'm about to do a chemistry read with Jonah Hill. Like no one told me. And I haven't even finished reading all of what the pages are.
Right.
And then they called me in and I was like, all right, here we go. I had no time to prepare for this. But what was so fun, it was like Phil and Chris were there, and it was just an opportunity to like improv and play, because they were like, we know you didn't get this. Just say what, go along with Jonah. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
It was actually really fun. He just went way off script, and I kind of knew the gist of the scene. So I would get us back on track to like where the scene needed to go in order to end eventually. And it just felt very organic and easy, and there was no pressure because I just, there was no time to prepare anything. So you had to be very present.
Yeah.
Moment for that. So, I found out that I got that job, and that was very exciting. We filmed in New Orleans and we filmed in Puerto Rico, over a couple months. And it was a blast. It was just, the whole filming was just like that audition. It was very like, say whatever you want, as long as we get to the end of the scene where we know this plot line needs to happen, but like, you can say it in your own words and add jokes and do whatever you want. And so it was very playful. It was exciting because you didn't know where you were going.
Well, it's interesting because you said you're someone who lives in the moment. So I think that's benefited you at those kind of auditions when you just had to be in the moment.
Yeah, I had no opportunity to be anxious about it.
Right.
Like, here it is.
Right. I'm just picturing you like driving to Santa Monica, reading sides while you're driving, like
my lap, like on the 10 freeway.
It's insane. And so what was that like filming with Channing and Jonah? Were they just awesome?
They were great. They're so fun. They get along great. They're kind, generous scene partners.
Yeah.
I am a present person in the moment, but I'm not a very don't do a lot of improv. I'm not very funny. I have a great sense of humor, but I'm not funny.
Mm.
So I rely a lot on the writing of things. And so I think it kind of worked out nicely because I could be the scene partner that will get us back to where we need to go.
Perfect.
Really fun to just get to watch him play. And Jillian is one of the funniest people that you'll ever know.
That
and
was like,
stuff that she would come up with was just like, we couldn't get through scenes because it was so funny. Like the weird shit that would come out of her mouth. I mean,
I feel like that was her big break, that movie, right?
It might have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I mean, she's brilliant in this movie. She's so funny and such an unpredictable like role.
Yeah.
And she and I like became like pretty good friends during that time. You know, we would have our hotel rooms next to each other, and then, you know, I'd go in her room to like, you know, hang out with her.
Yeah.
During that time, and we had a lot of fun. The Lucas brothers,
Yes.
who were also brilliant, really nice dudes. You know, I feel like day one I got there at the same time as them, and all of us were like, "What are we doing here in New Orleans? Should we like go to dinner?" So I went out to dinner with just the two of them. I had no idea who was Keith and who was Kenny. I had dinner with them.
That's funny.
No, we just made the best of this like kind of like funny situation we were all thrown into.
That's so cool. Yeah, and Wyatt Russell's blowing up now too. He's on.
Wyatt's such a good dude. I don't know if you know him.
No, I don't. I
The nicest, most grounded, normal person you'll ever meet.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Yeah, I've hung out with Channing, and he was so nice. Like
Channing's also.
He's such a nice guy. I haven't hung out with Jonah or Wyatt, but what a great cast! Everyone like blew up from that movie, even the directors. It's so great. I actually saw this week like 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street. Both movies are like in the top 40 still this week of like movies on iTunes being bought.
Really? That's
amazing. People love those movies. Yeah, those were big hits.
Very funny.
Yeah, really funny. They're laugh out loud, those movies. When they're on drug trips, it's some of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Their personalities, they are just having a blast. And that's why I watch, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, so that was major. Yeah, I remember I was so happy. I remember when the article came out that you booked 22 Jump Street, I was like, this is huge. It was great. Yeah, I love seeing everybody succeed. So since 22 Jump Street, you've starred on 4 TV series in a row, including Run the World. So we're going to run through those. You've worked nonstop. So the first one was from 2015 to 2017, 3 seasons, The Carmichael Show. I loved that show.
So
It is so good. It was like a modern day All in the Family, I felt like.
I was absolutely the inspiration for the show. Yeah.
It was so edgy. It was so cool. It was an NBC multicam, which is what I grew up loving, you know, Friends and, you know, Seinfeld and all those shows. And it's interesting because it was, you know, thought of as too edgy for TV sometimes, even though that's what shows were like in the 70s, network TV. So it's weird that now it would be too edgy when back then it was acceptable. It had one of the best sitcom casts ever. I'm going to list it. Jared Carmichael, Amber Stevens, Lil Rel Howery, Tiffany Haddish, Loretta Devine, David Allen Greer. I mean, come on. 3 seasons, 32 episodes. What was that experience like? It had to be like a masterclass in acting, right?
It was incredible. It was hard work, but so rewarding. I learned so much about just myself as a human being doing that show, because I was challenged every week, because I was the character on the show. For those that haven't seen it, every week was about like some sort of like, not necessarily a hot topic, but like, let's say gun control. Okay.
Right.
So it's going to be about like whether or not people should have guns. And my character was always like the ultra liberal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I was an outsider in the family. So it was a tight knit family. And then I was like the girlfriend. And so it was very easy for my character to get picked on, but she was like brilliant and outspoken and challenged the family. And so I felt like I learned so much about just myself and the way that I view things in the world, because I identified so much with what her perspective was. You know, I too am a pretty like liberal, open-minded person. And And but the challenge was every week was really balancing the argument for all the characters on the show, because every person had a different perspective
Right.
of what the topic was, and it needed to be funny, and it needed to be truthful, and it needed to fit into 22 minutes. And so they had a hard time, like, just really finding how it worked so perfectly, like a Rubik's Cube, putting it all together. And so we had a lot of like late nights on that show. Like, we didn't know what the script was going to be the next day, because they were really trying to fine tune the perspectives of every character. But that's why it ended up being so brilliant, is that they cared so much about getting it right. And so there were some nights where we didn't have the script until the day of filming day.
Wow.
I think we shot the show on like Thursdays or something. And we would show up that day and they'd be like, it'd be all new pages. And it was like, ready to do a show in 4 hours? Okay. And so, it was like a master class also, and just like learning your lines. They would change jokes on set while we were filming, and you just had to like be like really focused. But it was so fun. It was so fun. The audience would roar laughter.
Yeah.
It was always a show. And we were making something that like mattered. It felt like we were doing something important, and we were talking about like real life stuff in a very honest way. So I enjoyed every single moment of that show.
So that was your first time as a regular on a multicam sitcom, right?
Yes, that was my first regular job on a multicam.
Yeah.
I had done one pilot. I don't know. But that was my first regular job doing that.
Yeah. And the show was created by Jared Carmichael too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He it's pronounced Gerard.
Oh, Gerard.
But he is a stand-up comedian for people that don't know. And he just had this interesting perspective. It's very inspired by the way that he did his stand-up. It was his if you've ever watched him, it's very kind of like slow and quiet, his energy, but really thoughtful. So you have to lean in, and he just makes like absurd jokes about real stuff that just it feels just so authentic and different. Yeah. So it was inspired by comedy, and then certainly by what Norman Lear had been doing in the past about, finding the perspectives on all this real hot topic stuff.
Yeah, I remember I used to see him perform at the Improv, and it's like very conversational and exactly what you said before the show even existed. And then when the show came out, I was excited because I was familiar with his stand-up. And then you were on it. It was like the perfect storm of like a hit show. And so I was one of those people who would watch the episodes and like tweet, like, you have to see this week's like Carmichael show. It's genius. And I remember you would like reply to my tweets, and I was like trying to do that Twitter campaign where you like save a show. I think it was controversial. And, from what I understand, there was like pushback from NBC about the edgy material, and Gerard didn't want to do the show, unless it was on his terms, right? Is that sort of what it was like?
Yeah, it was. I mean, he fought to make the show that he wanted to make. And then, it happens that a lot of the network suits and stuff get nervous. And so they start to challenge the creatives. It happens all the time. And he's a very, what's the word? Convinced of his perspective. And he's like, I know what I'm here to make. Yeah. And so I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to fight for why I believe is true. And he's really smart dude. So like, for example, the episode where we say the N-word, we actually said it on television, the real word, no bleeping, because he knew what the rules were. And he knew that the context was important. It was the whole point of the episode. And so he had to really fight for that. He also had to really fight for like our Bill Cosby episode, because it was uncomfortable. I mean, we're talking about someone who's accused of something pretty dark, but we're talking about it on a multicam sitcom. Right. And one of the perspectives of the characters on the show is to kind of praise him still and pretend like it's not important, And so he knew that we needed to have the full round, like every perspective on a subject in order for it to work. So he had to keep fighting for that because it can make people uncomfortable. And I think by the end, he was like, all right, I'm done fighting with the network to try to prove that this is the way that it needs to work, that we just, took the show off the air.
Right. It wasn't really that it got canceled. It was almost like a mutual thing where he was like, if we're not going to make the show I need to make, then we're going to end it.
Yeah. I don't know why it never really grasped a larger group of people to watch it, but I think it certainly did deserve to have more promotion than it did. So maybe that could have, but we were just kind of never treated with that level of seriousness as a show by the network. So he was like, I'm done. I'm going to go do other stuff. And he's been wildly successful producing and doing all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah, I think it was almost maybe ahead of its time. Like if it was on a streamer, it wouldn't have had to adhere to those same rules.
That's true. That's true.
So it would have still been on. But yeah, I couldn't believe NBC would let the show go because of the cast. Like, they had you and
doing just fine now.
Totally. I know they had like Lil Rel and Tiffany Haddish every week, and they let it go, and both of them went on to huge, movie success. But yeah, what a great like lightning in a bottle moment that you all were on a show together. Did you just love being part of that cast?
Loved it. Loved every moment of it.
Yeah, it was awesome. You should be very proud of that. People should find it.
They should. It's fun. Every once in a while, people reach out to me and they were like, how did I never know about the Carmichael show? And they're just discovering it because you can still find it some places. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You should have back then so that it'd still be on.
Exactly. Right. But it all works out because if one show stays on, then you don't get to do the other show. So.
And everyone's had, so much success doing other really fun stuff.
Totally. Yeah. But it's a great one. Then the next year, 2017 to 2018, you did Ghosted on Fox with Craig Robinson and Adam Scott, another amazing cast. My friend, Tom Gormican, created that show.
I love Tom. Tom's so cool.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a very popular guy. People love Tom.
Yeah, that was a cool one. I think I found out Carmichael's show was going to be no more, and like the next day or 2 days later, Ghosted called.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was like a crazy turnaround where my agent called me laughing. He was like, I've never seen anyone offered a job so fast after getting off something. But, it wasn't a straight direct offer, but they offered me to go straight to test. So I went in and read with Adam, to chemistry read with Adam Scott and then got that job. And that was also so much fun. That filmed here, it was a half-hour single camera show. So it was different than what I had been doing at Carmichael. And just like such a wacky, weird world that we created. But all the actors were really fun. I'm still like very good friends with a lot of like the crew from that. Like the hair and makeup girls became like all of us super close.
Nice.
And that was a special time too.
Yeah, Ghosted was a really cool show. It's like almost like a comedy version of X-Files. And it's funny because it's on Fox, like X-Files was. They almost did like a satire of themselves. It's interesting because you mentioned how like you went straight to test on that. And that kind of shows like how an acting career builds, is that now that you've had, the Carmichael show under your belt, you don't have to audition. They can like skip you right to like, the network test, which is nice.
Yeah, no, I felt that was like a big special moment in my career that I had reached that next level,
Yeah, totally. Those are all the benchmarks. And so then Ghosted was on for one season on Fox. And then immediately after Ghosted is no longer, you get Happy Together, which is a CBS multicam, back to the multicam world. How did that feel to go right from Ghosted to Happy Together? Was that nice?
That was great. I had done a guest star on New Girl and worked in that episode with Damon Wayans Jr. And he was one of those people, like an actor that I met where we were immediately friends, and I never worked with him or really ever saw him again after that. But like that day we were like, this feels cool. Like we're homies. You know what I mean? Like we just like spent the afternoon laughing together and looking at stupid Instagrams and just like had a very easy back and forth with each other.
Yeah.
And so felt like an old friend. He also grew up here in LA, so I think we just had like similar vibes.
Right.
And,
right. He's part of the Wayans family. Grew up in the business.
And So when they called me about that show too, to play opposite him, and that was also direct chemistry read. But when they called me, I was like, yeah, Damon and I are going to have chemistry. I like already knew for some reason that it was going to work out great.
Yeah.
And I thought the premise of the show was funny and weird. You know, this pop star lives with this couple, and at that time, that year, Damon was like the number one requested actor of pilot season. He, like, every single network wanted him. He could have his choice of like any show he wanted to be on. And he chose Happy Together. So I trusted that he was, only going to do something he thought was going to be really fun. And yeah, I went in and chemistry read with him on a Saturday. It was a Saturday night because they hadn't found an actor before that, because I was still on Ghosted and hadn't auditioned for it yet. And they were like, okay, we got to figure out who this actor is going to be. Can you come in on a Saturday? And it was the same day as the Ghosted wrap party.
No.
My husband drove me to CBS on a Saturday night. It was dark out. We met in this room with the producers, with Ben Winston and Felix Mallard was there. We did this chemistry read, and then Andy was waiting outside in the car for me, and we went straight to the bowling alley where the Ghosted wrap party was.
Wow.
Straight.
I love that. That's like closing one door and opening another.
Yeah, it really was. It was just like this weird revolving thing. It happened all those times in a row. So,
that's amazing.
That was such a fun time, and Damon and I get along great. We had a lot of fun doing that show together, and Felix is a dreamboat. This kid is so talented and sweet and funny and grounded and full of gratitude. And it was just like a really fun environment every day. I really, honestly, the entire crew, so many of them would tell us that it was the best work experience that they had ever. And a lot of them worked on like Cheers. I'd been around for doing all these epic shows, but it was such a beautiful environment every day. Like it just worked out that every crew member got along great. It was just like a magical place to work.
It seems like a lot of your jobs.
It was amazing.
Yeah. A lot of your jobs seem like they were really fun.
They really have been. And I find that to be a requirement for me now. Like I've been really lucky, but that's why, like I said earlier in the interview, when I sat down with Yvette and Lee to do Run the World, I was like, it needs to be fun. I'm not moving my family across the country for it to not be just the best time.
Right.
We have one life to live. And I don't find that it's like, why, just because the outcome of the show is good, like I can't enjoy myself every day at work. Like that's more important to me than even like the final product of something.
Right. Well, I really liked Happy Together. I watched every episode. It's like, for me, it was like the throwback to those sitcoms we grew up with, those multicam sitcoms. Like you said, it was just like a family fun show. And it's interesting. You mentioned Damon Wayans being like the most sought after actor, because Deadline always has articles every year, like which actors just came off shows, and he was coming off Happy Endings years ago, and everyone was trying to get him, so right when he picked Happy Together, that was like a vote of confidence for that show, because at that moment he had his pick. You guys were perfect together as a married couple. You played Claire and Jake. Felix Mallard, who you mentioned, was Cooper James, who was a pop star who lived with them. And you also mentioned Ben Winston was the executive producer. In real life, he's the executive producer of The Late Late Show with James Corden, and he just directed the Friends reunion, which I watched many times. And so in real life, didn't he have Harry Styles come live with him? And then they based the premise of a pop star coming to live with a married couple on what happened in real life.
Exactly right. It was inspired by real events. Harry Styles lived with Ben Winston.
Amazing.
A long time, I guess. I never got a straight answer about actually how long it was, if it was like a year or 2 years or like 6 months. But all that to say, he moved in with the idea that he would only be there for like a week or so. And then he ended up just like living with this married couple, and all of silly stuff that comes along with the biggest pop star in the world living in your house.
Amazing. And just to wrap up your resume, while you were doing Happy Together, Love Jacked came out, which is what we mentioned earlier. So you got to be the lead in a rom-com, you and Shamir Anderson. Marla Gibbs was also in it as the grandma. She just turned 90 this week.
She did. I love her so much. That was the second time I worked with her because Marlo was also on Carmichael show.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah. But we grew up watching her on 227, another classic multicam. That looked like a blast to make. It's one of those case of mistaken identity comedies. I love those. You played another girl named Maya who goes to South Africa. She meets a rich guy, gets engaged, tells her family, ends up breaking up with him, but doesn't want to tell them that it ended. So she has somebody else pretend to be him. And that's where Shamir comes in. Shamir's a friend of mine. He invited me to that Love Jack screening. He's had a great career too. He's blowing up also. He's going to be in John Wick 4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super talented. He's so much fun. Like he was, so I, when we did that movie, I had been cast first. So I got to do the chemistry reads and try to, help them find the boy. And when Shamir came, there he is. He's just like such a blast. He's so fun to watch and you want to lean in. Everything he does is so interesting and he makes really good choices. And we had a lot of fun doing that show because he's also Canadian and we filmed the movie in outside of Toronto and then down in South Africa. And so, we were kind of like on his territory shooting in Toronto and he had all his like homies around and he's like a, like big man on campus up there. So it was really fun just to see him in his element. And then he's just such a talented, funny actor too. Also, he can like do it all. Yeah. He will be like the next Denzel kind of dude.
I agree. Yeah. And his brother is Stefan James. They're both these kids from Toronto who came to America and blew up in Hollywood. It's amazing.
They're a talented family.
Yeah. So if people haven't seen Love Jack, really fun movie, romantic comedy. It's available everywhere to watch now. So that brings us full circle to 2021, Run the World, season 1, now playing on Stars, new episodes every Sunday night between now and July 11th. So before we go, I always like to ask my guests, what advice do you have for someone who dreams of having a career like yours?
Don't do it. No. You just have to be realistic and believe in yourself and your abilities. And unapologetically just go after what it is that you want to accomplish. And that kind of goes for anyone in any field. Be realistic about what you need to work on. And then work on those things and stay focused and don't put too much pressure on yourself. I mean, just try to have a good time. I think kind of like the whole theme of, it feels like of our entire conversation has just been about my ability, gift, I guess, to be very present as a person. And I think that can kind of take the pressure off of yourself, and try to just enjoy every moment of the journey. And I don't know how to tell you to get an agent. You just have to try to find someone who believes in you.
Yeah.
There's no one way to get into this industry. Everyone has a different story. And I'm sure you get that, when you listen to this podcast and you hear everybody's story is so different. So just trust the journey. It will work out the way it's supposed to.
I love that. Yeah. I think one of the takeaways from your story is you don't dwell on the past and you don't worry about the future. So you're in the moment and good things seem to come from that. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, well, it's worked out well for me so far, thank goodness.
Yeah, and I think Run the World will be the show that stays on for a very long time.
Great.
Yeah, I think it's great. Okay, the very last thing we do here at On the List is called the mystery question. Now, this is episode number 67. So I've been doing this since episode 1, where the guest from my last podcast leaves a question for my next guest. And so that's how we end every episode. And then I'll have you leave a mystery question for my next guest, whoever that may be. You'll email it to me. So my guest on the last podcast was actually Lance Bass. We shot the PSA at his house. So Lance was on also with his assistant Lisa, because she is on The Circle on Netflix, the reality show. Yeah, so you have 2 questions because you have Lance's question and Lisa's question. So let's see, I'm opening that up for you. Let's see, Lance Bass's question is, when was a time you laughed until you cried, and what was it about?
Oh, that's a good question. Laughed until I cried. I wish I had known this earlier so that I could think of a good answer. I just laugh. I mean, my kid makes me laugh until I cry all the time. I'm trying to think of a specific thing that she's done recently. She's 2.5, but everything she says is hilarious. Oh man, I can't think of anything specific.
Well, I love that your daughter makes you laugh till you cry. That's fun.
Oh, she's one of the funniest people I've ever met. She's got my husband's sense of humor. They're
Man.
very weird. The two of them are like two peas in a pod. Um,
My nephew and nieces make me laugh until I cry too. They just crack me up. Same sense of humor. That's why it's like,
funny and weird.
yeah. Do you ever laugh on set? Do you ever just break up while you're acting because it's so funny?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like every day. All the time.
Actually, you know what I was going to say was on Run the World. Sometimes I feel like you guys are really laughing at what each other are saying. Like it seems like real laughter in the scenes.
Oh, it is. It's always real. We are actually like girlfriends who are making fun of each other and teasing each other and saying stupid stuff constantly with each other. That it's all very real.
Yeah, there was a scene where you're at a party and Renee brings this random guy and you all kind of are laughing about it, and it seemed very genuine.
Yeah.
So now let's go to Lisa's question. What is the most beautiful place you have ever been to, and why is it the most beautiful?
Oh wow. One place that really took my breath away was Cape Town, South Africa. When we were shooting Love Jacked there, the sun reflects off the ocean in a way that I've never seen anywhere else on the planet. And I've been lucky enough to travel to a lot of places. I have kept a picture of the beach there in my phone ever since, because it just is so majestic and bright. And the mountains that just are up against the ocean there is unlike anything I've ever seen on the planet. And I just found it to be outstanding. Like I couldn't get enough of just staring out the window.
Yeah, I haven't been to South Africa, but anything I've seen, and in that movie, the views when people see Love Jack, your character goes to South Africa, the views are unbelievable from that amazing house.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful place.
Yeah, perfect answer to those questions. I love it. And so next you will email me a question for my next guest, whoever that may be. It's all a mystery. Okay. And that is a wrap on episode 67.
Hey, thank you for having me. 67. 67.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this. I hope you had fun. It was a nice trip down memory lane.
It was nice to reflect on the career that I've had so far. And I appreciate the time. I mean, you certainly did your homework. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I did my homework, but I also followed it. Since I've known you, I followed your career in real time. You know, I watched all those shows and so it didn't even require that much research because I lived it, you know?
True, that's true.
Yeah.
Man. Long friendship. Well, thank you again for having me on here, friend.
Of course. I'm so happy you did it. You know, you've had a very successful career, a very steady career, which is important in the acting world. So thank you, Amber Stevens West, for being here. Everyone watch Run the World, now playing on Starz, season 1. We'll have 8 episodes in all. First 5 available now. New episodes every Sunday night till July 11th. Thank you again to Amber. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And I will talk to you next time. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
I wanted to take a minute to talk about the sponsors of On the List: Hint Water, eBay, and Magic Spoon cereal. So first we've got Hint Water. I've got some of my favorite flavors right here. Here's the watermelon, the strawberry kiwi, raspberry, pineapple, and I also love the crisp apple, blood orange, lemon, pear, clementine. I love all the flavors. So what's really cool about Hint is that there's no sugar, no diet sweeteners, no calories, no preservatives, and it's non-GMO certified. It's also vegan, contains no nuts, no soy, no gluten, no MSG. And so Hint is offering home delivery when you sign up on the Hint website, drinkhint.com. And they're offering new customers 36 bottles for $36 if you use the code NEW36 at checkout. NEW36. So go to drinkhint.com and use the code NEW36 at checkout. And next we've got eBay. So if you like vintage sneakers as much as I do, eBay is the place for you. Here's a pair right here. Here's another pair right here. So what's cool about eBay is that they've got rare dead stock, but they've also got the latest releases, and you can find the exact pair that you're looking for on eBay. So it was actually the original sneaker marketplace, and it's still the place to go to get the pair you've been looking for. So eBay has an authenticity guarantee, and they also have a team of independent professional authenticators performing rigorous inspections of the sneakers that you purchase before they're sent to you. So you can shop confidently knowing that your pair is the real deal. And for sneaker sellers out there, eBay eliminated selling fees on sneakers over $100. So it's free to sell or flip your collection. Other sites take 25%, but eBay waived the fee. So check out ebay.com/sneakers today. And last but not least, Magic Spoon cereal. So Magic Spoon cereal is one of my favorite cereals. There it is right there. This is the peanut butter flavor. So, if you've tried to cut back on sugar or carbs or unhealthy foods in general, then Magic Spoon's the answer for you. So they've got frosted, blueberry, cocoa. I mix the cocoa with the peanut butter, so you have peanut butter and chocolate. I also mix the frosted with the blueberry. And they've also got a fruity flavor. And everyone I've told Magic Spoon about has gotten hooked on it. So the best thing about Magic Spoon cereal, besides the fact that it tastes so good, is 0 sugar. No sugar at all, even though it tastes great. It's also low carb, only 3 grams, so it's keto friendly. And it's high in protein, 11 grams per serving. So it's got everything you need, and it excludes all the stuff you don't, and it's just really good. So if you go to magicspoon.com/Brett, BRETT, you can make your own variety pack of 4 flavors. You can choose from frosted, blueberry, fruity, cocoa, peanut butter, and whatever new flavors they have to offer. Then just use the code BRETT, BRETT, at checkout for free shipping. So go to magicspoon.com/Brett and then use the code BRETT, BRETT, at checkout for free shipping. And I will see you guys next time.